Not sure why I didn't hear my ding, but I didn't hear my ding. But let's rock and roll anyway. 1, 2. I see my volumes. All right, YouTube, let's hit it.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
You're now about to witness the truth.
it's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Thursday night, December 3rd, 2015. I want to thank you for joining me for this late night political hangout. Generally, you can expect if the title of the show is Late Night Political Hangout, that pretty much means that I just got off work, just got off the train, just got here, just got the lights on, and got the session started. So I have been able to glance at the news and pick up some things that I want to talk about. But more than that, I want to open up the lines and I want to hear from you guys. 857-600-0518. The first thing that jumps out to me is the conversation about the shooting in San Bernardino. It's amazing how quickly we get back to normal. That's the first thing I notice. It's barely even trending anymore. It's going down. It's going down on Twitter. We get back to normal so quickly. So that's the first thing that stood out to me. The second thing that stood out to me is the fact that how quickly the Senate or conservatives expose themselves to show how committed they are to guns and not the safety of Americans. They would not close. They voted against closing the loophole that allowed people on terrorist watch lists to get weapons. After what went down yesterday, which however you label it, I don't care how you cut it, it was an act of terrorism. I don't care if it was Muslim, Islamic terrorism, brown terrorism, black terrorism, white terrorism. I don't care anymore. I don't care to try to one up somebody and say, look, ha 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 ha. It wasn't an Islamic terrorist this time. It was a white terrorist. I really don't care about that distinction anymore because 14 people were killed. Lives. I saw people. The youngest person was 27 years old. I believe the oldest was like 50 something. Lives snuffed out. So I really don't care about the political positioning of it. What I care about is what are we going to do to stop it from happening again? That's what I care about. That's what I care about. The oldest person actually was 60. Larry Kaufman. Isaac Amanios, 60. And actually, let me take a minute. I want to read their names and I want to read how they were. Shannon Johnson, 45. Benetta Bet Badal, 46. Aurora Godoy, 26 years old. Isaac Amanios, 60. Larry Kaufman, 42. Harry Bowman, 46. Yvette Velasco, 27. Sierra Claiborne, 27. Robert Adams, 40. And Nicholas Dalcinos, 52. But it didn't take any time for everyone to get back to normal. Matter of fact, I don't think we ever stopped being, I don't think we paused a minute. I don't think, and this is from the liberal side too. Now, this is not a false equivalency. This is exactly what happened yesterday. No sooner than we heard about it, everyone started tweeting and Facebooking and Instagramming about whether or not it was white terrorists. And then conservatives were like, I bet you it's an Islamic terrorist. So nobody took a second, and I'm speaking categorically, I'm sure some of you did, but it felt as though nobody took a second to actually reflect on the loss of life. And then not even 24 hours later, the Senate said, meh, we could keep people who are on terrorist watch lists from getting guns, but it's more important for us to let people have guns. Yep. Quantum Samurai says we have become desensitized. You know, there was a in my did I lose my yeah. Okay, great. There was in my bachelor's program, we had a writing for business course, and there was a young lady in that course. I wasn't focused back then. This was many years ago. I wasn't focused, so I picked some random topic about MP3s and the quality difference between an MP3 and a WAV file. Right, something that's totally pointless. I'm going somewhere. The same day I presented, another young lady presented and said she wrote about in a business writing course the desensitization and the oversensitization of America. I'll never forget that paper. This was at least 10, hell, at a minimum 10 years ago, probably 12. She wrote about the desensitization and the oversensitization of America, meaning that we are simultaneously, and this was at a state school, man. She probably should have been at an Ivy League. We are simultaneously in America oversensitive about issues and desensitized to issues, where we can be outraged and still be apathetic at the same time. I wish that was my thesis. It wasn't. It was someone else's, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant. But that's where we are. That's where we are in America, and nothing gets done. So that's the first thing I noticed. Second thing I noticed was the issue with I still have to go back to Dothan, Alabama, as I unpack that case more, and I see the officers, how systematically they did it, how long they got away with it, the promotions they got while black men were in jail. They framed decades of cases that caused black men to go to jail, not just so that they could fill quotas. Now, we've heard of this before in other cities where they're filling quotas, and so they'll drop a nickel bag or dime bag, no major charges, person in and out, and the cops do that to fill their quotas, because some cities used to have quotas. I think some cities still do. This wasn't the case. They weren't doing it just because they had the pressure of the job and pressure of getting collars. They did it because they were affiliated with a white supremacist organization, and they had it out for black men. Dothan, Alabama, where my brother and his son and the rest of the family grew up and lived. And so imagine the lives that were taken, and the rest of America, we're pretty much just like, because we're desensitized to the reality of how absurd America is. We're desensitized to shootings. We're back to normal. We're back to normal. Nothing changed. Things remain the same. And I'm not pausing for dramatic effect. I'm just really thinking about, what is it going to take for things to change? I have one bit of encouraging news. I'm not down completely. I'm actually just going topic by topic, whatever comes to my mind. You guys can join the conversation. If you want to bring focus to the conversation, it's probably best that you call in tonight, 857-600-0518. I'll tell you about my day next, but I want to talk about this first. Encouraging news. Because the question I had was, what will it take for us to actually change? The encouraging news, the article that I told you guys I was writing, I published it yesterday morning at like 1:30 in the morning. There have been about 25,000 people who read that article. So it's gone kind of semi-viral. A real viral video gets article would get like 500,000 reads. So it's not viral per se. It's got a lot of reads though. And the more important thing, not about the reads, is who's reading it and who has reached out to me. I've been contacted and reached out to by a litany, like at least 100 black preachers who, look at this. This is what they're saying in their messages to me. One in particular stood out the most. He said he had been struggling with this himself. He was under the impression that because he was a Christian, he had to vote with the Republican Party. and that he got my not only my article but my chapter in my book, and he read it, and he was really grateful because it solidified some things in his mind, and he realized that he needs to be fighting for justice and equality for everyone. The good news is that if you guys like me, if you appreciate the Benjamin Dixon Show, then you would love an army of Black progressive preachers out there fighting for justice. Because first of all, nobody got more swag than Black preachers. They can say it in a way that's going to get everybody involved, but then no one else has more fire. So if you like what I do, you're going to love what these guys do, because all I think it took was somebody to wake them up and say, stop being, you have so much power. And right now that power is being wasted because you're not doing what we've historically done. There have been changes in America that came on the back of the Black church. The Black church is like this unbelievable organizing tool that's not just for Black people. And guess what? It's not even just for Christians. There were alliances back in the 60s. There was alliances with Muslims, with atheists, with pagans, with all kind of people who wanted justice. And so if we ever get that formula back that we had in the 60s, man, when we had people who had different beliefs, different ideologies, but they had one goal, and that was equality and justice for everyone. If they really heard me the way they say they heard me, that's going to be some good stuff for, I can't say for America, because only a few, like I said, 25,000 people read it. I need 1 million people to read it, but right now it's a good start. It's a good start because I think with everything we talk about, with everything we share, everything that we read, one mind at a time, if we can change one person's mind at a time, one person can change 10. 10 can change 1,000. 1,000 can change 10,000, and the rest of the math. So just one person at a time, if we convince people that progressive ideas is what America needs, it's what your organization needs, it's what your family needs, it's what your church needs, it's just what's best for humanity. If we can convince one person of that, just one person, we can change this whole game, our whole game. We're on the bubble for that, though. Very probably. I'm reading some questions here. Yeah, who is reading? Yeah. I'm sorry. What's bad? What's bad is for those of you who are listening via Spreaker. So via Spreaker, you're not seeing the comments. I'm not reading them out, but I see comments over here. Let me skip something. Let me go back here. Chris Carlson said, you have to get back to the business as usual when there's a new one every day or two. Chris, you know what, man? I can't agree with you more. It becomes a coping mechanism. And he's talking about why it is that we get back to normal so quickly. I remember, and again, guys, this is the last time. This is my last disclaimer. If you want to bring focus to tonight's conversation, we're just hanging out. If you want to bring focus, you need to call in 857-600-0518. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about whatever comes to my mind, because I'll tell you about my day later. Just remind me to tell you about my day. But what Chris is saying is true. Sometimes you go back to normal just so that you don't have to deal with the reality of it. When my father died back in 2005, I did everything I could to go back to normal right away. Matter of fact, I didn't even cry for like 2 weeks because I wanted to I needed to keep things normal. And it's a coping mechanism, and it's a coping mechanism that backfires and will destroy you, right? I was driving back from work 2 weeks after the funeral, and I couldn't even see, right? I was, crying so hard I couldn't even see the road. I had to pull over on the highway, and I felt like a chump because I'm like, whatever. But the point is, when you become so quick, like America has, to just move past one tragedy because you're fully expecting another tragedy to come right behind it, you haven't even healed from the first tragedy. I guarantee you, we as a nation, we haven't healed from Sandy Hook. Those families have barely healed. We have not at all. So we're moving because it's happening with such frequency. But part of the reason it's happening with such great frequency is because we're moving away from it so quickly. Chicken or the egg? What's causing it? It's because we're paralyzed. We're in a state of paralysis where we cannot do anything on gun violence in America. Nothing. Not even yesterday, where it looks like two terrorists, one American, one, I believe the other one's Pakistani, and they killed 14 people, had access to 1,000 rounds of ammunition. You do not get that without getting cleared so easily to get guns. Well, I guess you can buy ammunition without, but you understand what I'm saying. They had to buy the guns. But because we're so quick to get back to normal, we go right back. The Senate doesn't care. They don't care. It's right back to business as usual. And the conversation has changed and we've moved on. And we think that we're just coping with it. In reality, is America's dying on the inside. I don't believe that there is an existential threat from the outside. I don't think there's a country that's a real threat to us from the outside. The real threat is internal. The real threat is the damage that we'll do to ourselves. All right. Ryan James says America's too sedated to keep up. I agree with that 100%. Leslie said, yes, we need a progressive army of black preachers. I'm tired of watching these black preachers supporting these corrupt Democrats. And that's the thing. You know what? When I wrote that article, I published it the first time just referencing the preachers who were supporting Trump. But I had to be true. So when I woke up, I published it at 1:30 in the morning. I woke up at 6:30 in the morning and I came back in and I added one more line. And it's not only am I calling out the preachers that endorse Trump, I'm calling out Michael Eric Dyson, who is a preacher who endorsed Hillary Clinton. Still love Michael Eric Dyson, still a fan of Michael Eric Dyson. But when we are not standing true to real principles, actual principles that we know works, then we're not being true to what we're doing in the first place. We're not being true to our calling. And the beautiful thing about progressivism, this is the thing that's most important, is that everybody in this chat room, everybody listening on Spreaker, everyone who's watching this later, every single one of us has different ideologies. Every one of us has different faiths, different variations on faiths, atheists, agnostic, people who are pagans. I have one guy who's a Satanist. You know, we have everybody from different walks of life, different orientations, different races, different ethnicities, different nationalities. We all come from some very different places, but we're united around one singular focus. And that one singular focus is, how do we progress humanity? But first, how do we not let humanity destroy ourselves? How do we not kill each other? How do we not bring an end to this experiment on human life? And once we figure that out, then the question is, how do we advance humanity? So everything that we do, everything that we believe in progressivism is about moving forward, never being fearful of tomorrow, never being fearful of what the differences that we have, because we realize that it's our differences, it's our unique perspectives. We all bring something different to the table, and that is what makes us stronger. Whereas conservatives fear those differences, we look at them and we realize those differences are our strength. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question? Caller, I don't have you, so I'm going to switch to the next caller. If I could switch quickly here and catch it in time. Caller 205, you're on the air. Yeah. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Yeah, Ben?
Yep, that's me.
Hey, yeah, this is Craig, Dust Puppy.
Hey, Craig, how's it going, man? Glad to have you on board.
All right. I had a conversation last night with this guy, right-wing Christian fellow, and he was telling me that all the history that we've had where Christians have done bad things was all made up by bigots that hated Christians. there were no witch hunts. There were no.
Come on, man.
Yeah. This is what this guy. I think he actually believes this. No witch hunts. No KKK lynchings. None of this stuff ever happened.
Wow.
And every bit of it was made up by bigots who hate Christians. So I don't know. I kind of wanted to get your take on the.
Okay, so the
what you think about all that.
Yeah. Let me. Hey, Dust Puppy, thanks for the call. I will address it, but I want to clear the line because I have a line of people here, and I just take that answer off the air for me. Thanks a lot for the call.
Okay. All right. Bye.
You know what? That is a scary proposition. That is a terrifying proposition. I've been alluding to this a little bit, and I'm sure you guys all heard the question, but let me give it to you again. Or the comment. He said that there are some people who argue that everything negative that has been said about Christianity has been made up by people who hate Christianity. In other words, the Crusades, the negative things about the Crusades was just the liberal media propaganda. Right. Everything negative that's been said about the witch hunts, the Salem witch trials was just the liberal media propaganda, essentially. Right. People who just are coming from atheists, people who talked about the Klan being a Christian organization, or that's just something some militant black people made up because they don't like. No. Obviously, we know that that's not true. We do know that Christianity, just like any other religion, just like almost it's in human nature. It's human nature, but human nature can be amplified by bad religion, period. I don't care what anybody says. I say that knowing full well I'm condemning a lot of people in my own faith and every other faith, but human nature is bad enough. Bad religion magnifies and amplifies the negatives of human nature. With that being said, everybody in history has blood on their hands, particularly Christianity. We can go back 607. Do me a favor and hold the line. I'll catch you if you call back one more time. Christianity, I don't even have to give you the historical perspective because everybody knows. The reason they do that, though, this is why it's important to discuss. The reason they do that is because they cannot allow the idea to come in their mind that they may be wrong about something, that their ideas and their beliefs were not born out of an immaculate conception. And I mean the pun intended, right? They want to believe that the Christian religion was born of an immaculate conception like we believe Christ was. That's not true. Christianity was born, if Christ was born like pure and perfect, Christianity was born bloody and has a history of murder and war and everything else. So everything that I get good from Christianity today, I have to take into context of all the things negative that were bad. Just like America, the same people cannot tolerate a negative comment about America because they cannot deal with the cognitive dissonance that comes from having something that is good. I'll just say it's good. We'll discuss the goodness of America later, but they can't take the cognitive dissonance of dealing with the fact that something good today came from something horrible through history, right? They have to whitewash slavery because they can't fathom, they can't grapple in their minds with the fact that their God Bless America was actually and is still actually one of the most violent terroristic organizations in the world. They can't grapple with that because their heads will explode, right? Some people don't handle cognitive dissonance well. I love it, right? It actually brings a resolution. When the tension resolves, like when you get this headache in your head because you can't grapple with it and you think about it long enough and you deal with the yin and the yang, you deal with the two opposing forces, you realize that there's something better in the middle. So no, Christianity is not perfect. It doesn't have to be, right? But if we deal with the fact that it has just as much baggage as America, that it's been just as evil, it's done some terrible things as America, then it puts it in its proper context and you realize that we have to be careful with it so that it doesn't repeat itself. But they can't handle that. They just have to say, oh, liberal media, right-wing, left-wing propaganda. All right, caller 347, you're on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Then it's Pedro calling again. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, Pedro? Thanks for the call, man. What's on your mind?
All right. Just first of all, I agree completely with what you said as I was on hold, and I want to give just an opinion and a question.
Okay.
The opinion being, the term you brought up, cognitive dissonance, is perfect. It's the perfect reason why people, as was said before, they cannot fathom that their side is wrong, and whenever any evidence or inkling of opposition happens, they deny it. They deny fact or rationale. They'll rather say, no, wait, look at this. They deflect. They go for confirmation bias. And the thing is, this is what's weird about this whole gun control issue. Like, of course, you see, you hear a Middle Eastern name for one of the suspects. Well, now it's Muslim terrorism. Now it's not whites anymore.
Right.
But the whole issue is gun control. There's too much access to guns in general.
Exactly.
Now, as I've spoken to people and I've listened to people and I've read opinion pieces and whatnot, the people seemingly, this is just me off the top of my head, the people who want to keep guns as accessible as possible, people who side with the NRA and are fervent for the Second Amendment, they seem to think that the problem is solely on the behavioral issues of the gunmen, but of course for different reasons, like Adam Lanza or Woods for the Batman shooting. They were, crazy lone gunmen, what have you, Islamic people, they are terrorists for the Muslim faith and blah, 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 blah. But the thing is, I feel like if you take that to its logical conclusion, it seems like that the only people who should be allowed to have guns according to them, would be, according to the gun nuts, so to speak, would be people who only think like them.
Exactly.
Because, I'm not sure if I'm using the right term. It feels like fascism or nationalistic, like that they'd only want the people who think like them to have guns anyway.
I think it's more of I would put that more in the category of, and actually I want to just to make sure, I do believe that's more totalitarianism in the sense that
probably, yeah.
It's a monolithic block, and anyone who doesn't fit that monolithic block is subjugated by the law, right? And it's kind of, it gets mushy in there between the subtle differences between totalitarianism and then when does it actually convert from being a simple an ideology to being a political system like fascism. But I think the very core of it is totalitarianism, that if you are not like this, then you absolutely are not, that you're not, you don't get the same liberties. We extend that same argument that you just said over to the fact that they don't want certain constitutional rights to be extended to people with whom they disagree. Right. So it's like America is only for me and people who agree with me. So I agree with you. You said, I think you had a question in there too, or was it more? Go ahead.
Yeah. Just, I don't know if you were going to touch on it. Did you happen to see the Daily News cover in response to all of the GOP candidates and their tweets with their thoughts and prayers?
Yeah, I briefly saw it. Tell you what, let me
pull it up. Touch on that.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. Let me catch it 6:07 because they've been calling nonstop.
All right, yeah, no problem.
Thanks a lot for
hearing me out all the time.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And as soon as I clear the line, 6:07, I lost you. Please call back. The New York Daily or the Daily News, I saw, and I need to just pull it up because I saw it in passing today. It's actually the first Google search, New York Daily News. God isn't fixing this. All right, there we go. 6:07, I got you on hold. Finally got you. Hold tight. God isn't fixing this. And they have tweets from all of the politicians who were saying, let's pray, let's do this, let's do that. You know what? Because this person has been so patient, let me take them first, and then I'll address that cover. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and/or question?
Hey, Ben, it's Will from New York. So going back to what you said earlier about how do we get back to that climate of the 60s where, we reached across the aisles and we had black preachers that were charismatic, that brought people together, and we all came together for justice and that sort of thing.
Yep.
So we kind of live in that climate right now. Not only do we have a surging populist movement, especially, doing parts of the Bernie Sanders campaign, thank God, but also there were like 6 different protests going on 2 weeks ago, all at the same time.
Yeah.
So in addition to that climate that we have now, I almost think that the first caller that came on that said, you know, they say that the Christians never did any bad things. I think it takes, like what you said, that cognitive dissonance, and you did go into this a little, but resolving that there is bad. But also, when we've looked at the Muslim terror attacks, and we've tried not to say that's all of them, and that there's love in that religion too, and there's love in Christianity. I watch a lot of Hemant Mehta. He's the Friendly Atheist. He's also on tape. I think it's Patheos. Is that where you are?
Yeah.
Yeah, I realized that you were on there too, and I watched his stuff on there. I gotta imagine that there's, you know, Catholic leaders, Jewish leaders, other leaders in this country that are charismatic, that are progressive, and it's reaching across the aisles from the leaders that are, you know, very progressive and can spark that change, especially now. I mean, the 90%, almost everybody knows what the 90% is because of Bernie Sanders. And I think that's what it will take. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think you're absolutely right. I think as much as I love Bernie, I can't credit it all to Bernie, but I think Bernie is the standard bearer. I think he's the person who's carrying it now. I think he's the only politician who's carrying it now. I know he's the only politician that's carrying it now. Will, let me take the rest of this off the air. I don't want to keep this other person on hold like I did you. Thanks so much. Okay. And I'll finish answering it off air. All right. But to your point, to your main point, Will, I agree with you. It is a resurgence. But we need more numbers, and we need more people to realize where they fit. We need more people. And to be honest with you, this is going to be this is pretty corny plug, right? This is a corny plug because this is something we're putting together. But we need the progressive army. We need the progressive army that shows what the world really should look like and what the world has to be. I realized something. A long time ago, that for humanity to survive, it is going to require the diversity that progressives are trying to bring. It will. Conservatism is totalitarian. This modern day conservatism. Arguably all conservatism, but right now, absolutely the version of conservatism that is here today is totalitarian. You have to sacrifice your uniqueness. You cannot. They are absolutely against identity politics. They argue against identity politics because they realize if you vote based on your identity, it becomes a threat to conservatives. It becomes a threat to conservatism. So their entire goal is to whitewash everyone's identity and only have conservative white Christians. If you look at Ben Carson, his skin is black, but he's basically a conservative white Christian in terms of what he fights for, in terms of what he fights against, in terms of what he's going to speak out for and what he's going to speak out against. I have yet to see Ben Carson condemn Donald Trump's attack on Black Lives Matter, right? Likewise, the two Hispanic dudes, Cruz and Rubio. I've yet to hear either one of them condemn the front runner for how he has treated Hispanics. That's because they have to sacrifice their identity to be in the monolithic conservative party that we have today. Now, I got on that because I want to juxtapose that with progressives. Progressives are having a hard time because we're still learning now how it is to keep all of these people working together. These people who have different beliefs, these people who have different orientations, different outlooks on life, different persuasions, different sexual orientations. We're all so different, and we're trying to figure out how to make it work and how to make it fit. When the fact of the matter is, the very struggle to get it to fit is what makes it work. The fact that we're having these arguments amongst ourselves, the fact that Black Lives Matter is arguing with progressive Democrats and progressive Democrats are arguing with Black Lives Matter, and we're arguing with liberals, new atheists are arguing with progressive atheists over religion at all versus some religion is okay. You know, you have that argument, and we're trying to figure it out. And that's why I'm never opposed to a rigorous debate with somebody who can teach me something, because it's going to be the next puzzle in the piece of how do we fit all of our uniquenesses into humanity and coexist. Not coexistence in a mushy kind of kumbaya way, but coexistence in the sense of we have a working, functioning relationship with people who are entirely different than us. We can live and coexist with people who adamantly disagrees with us. Matter of fact, on issues, we probably hate each other on particular issues, but we don't allow that hate to destroy us, and we're still working together as human beings, and we recognize that we all have the right to be here and to coexist and to exist, rather. That's what progressivism is. We don't want you to whitewash. We don't want you to wash away your uniquenesses. Bring your uniqueness into the fold of humanity and fit right next to us equally. That's what progressivism is. And if humanity is ever going to make it, that's what humanity is going to have to be. Hate to be so esoteric, but I mean, it really gets down to a very fundamental question of how do we live together? Because if we don't live together, caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question? 240, you're live on the air. What's your name?
Oh, hello.
Hi, how are you today? What's your name and your question?
Oh, my name is Brianna, and I'm calling to just say I agree with you on.
I hear a but coming.
A lot of. Huh?
I hear a but. Sounds like I agree with you, but.
Oh no, I say I agree with you on a lot of things.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry about that. My thing, like with the whole, like I want to go back to the gun control thing.
Yeah.
My whole thing is that I see two different extremes here. Mm-hmm. Like I hear people like I'm gonna say like maybe for like far to the left, mm-hmm. saying that we should ban all guns, and then I hear people from the far right saying everyone should have guns, that we should have more access to guns. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if there is a certain balance between that.
Yes. Very good question. Very good question. Let me answer that question with a tweet. I'm going to actually, I just retweeted it not too long ago, but I'll go ahead and answer that question for you and just listen in. So there's a tweet from Sarah. I have no idea how to pronounce her last name. Benincasa. And if you want to know the balance, look at this tweet. I'll read it for you. The balance is, here's some common sense for you. I want gun ownership to be as boring and annoying as car ownership. I want you to go to some department of weapons and sit for hours. I want folks who own guns to prove their skill, their mental and physical health, and be licensed and reviewed over the years, just as it happens with your driver's licenses. She went on to say, you earn the right to own and drive a vehicle, earn the right to own and use a gun. I also want voluntary federal buyback programs, meaning people with firearms, the government will buy them back, giving them opportunity. I want the sale of weapons to be controlled like the sale of Xanax or any other controlled substances. I want advertisers for firearms to be regulated as the DTC, direct-to-consumer advertising for pharmaceuticals, where at the end of all the pharmaceutical commercials, you hear the disclaimer, may cause shortness of breath, long-lasting boners. I should have read this first, right? And I actually wrote most of it. We can do all of this. It will create jobs, believe it or not, blah, 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 blah. Here's a key point. It won't end murder. It won't end rape or robbery. It will make it harder to commit those crimes. There will be a black market because that's capitalism, and that's what capitalism does. Continuing education credits for gun owners should be required, just as they are with medical professionals. When you have a greater ability to take a human life, you also have a greater responsibility to prove your fitness to wield the tools that may create that end. And that's how the F you well regulate a goddamn American militia. Sarah Benincasa. You guys go to my Twitter page, look for that tweet. It's like the third one down, and I want you guys to retweet that because that's some gun sense. That makes sense to me. It's not rocket science. We know how to regulate things. Is there any shortage of people driving on the road? So if we can give have all of these requirements to get a driver's license, and everybody in the country just about can drive, then how much more difficult would it be for people to get guns if we just do the basic stuff that we do for driver's licenses? The real reason we can't do that is not because of the Second Amendment. It's not because they want to maintain a well-regulated militia. It's because the NRA controls the politicians and they don't want to hinder the income of gun sales. That's the number one problem. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question? This is you, 491. You're live on the air. I can hear you in the background. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Okay, that might be me. If it's me, then
yeah, it's you. You're on the air.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm a bit. There's a bit of a delay. I think I'm calling from Germany, awesome. And I want to come back on the point, especially regarding race issues. To give you a foreign point on this whole thing. When I'm looking at all the shows regarding mass shootings or violence in any kind of way, it seems always to be this matter of, okay, what color was the guy that actually did the whole thing? Especially when you regard terrorism attacks and then connected to Muslim terror attacks. But especially attacks that are based on a religious value of some sort. Race is of no concern whatsoever. I mean, in Germany we had an attack that did not take place, and the people who did it were white and were about to do it on the behalf of Islam or Islamic values or whatever. In the end, it's more a battle in connotations between mindsets. Often open mindset or a closed mindset or a conservative mindset, however you want to call it. But race is of no regard in this issue, and I think we should not start to divide ourselves based on race, because it is of no value to the whole discussion, in my personal opinion.
What was your name again?
Andreas.
Thank you so much for the call. I do agree with you. I do agree with you 100%. The problem that you're seeing and you're commenting on is a result of American politics. And I can imagine it seems absurd. I can imagine we look like a bunch of idiots abroad, right? If the world was watching yesterday, which they were, and they saw our debates on Twitter and they saw our debates on social media, and they saw how it all became about, was this person of Arab descent? Were they Muslim or were they white, and were they Christian? That's all yesterday was about, when it really should not be about that. But that becomes the political fodder that lets you know exactly how much race still plays a significant part in America. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you what's horrible about America, and I'm going to tell you what's good about America. Because just as I do with Christianity, right? I know the baggage that comes with being a Christian. I know. I don't need anybody to explain to me, because you cannot be black and not be familiar with the atrocities caused by Christianity. But likewise, I know the baggage of America, and I also know the potential. Here's the bad thing about America. Right now, today, we are still dealing with racial tensions and racial politics, and the usage of racism to divide, not just divide the country, but to terrify the country. The use of racism to infuriate the country, right? So you make them scared of Muslims, make them angry at black people, and make them spiteful against Hispanics. And that's how you get your political coalition strong enough to win Republican office. That is the exact formula that they have been using for a long time. And so long as that is the formula that they use to get political power, we'll always have these childish debates over, were they black? Was the killer Arab descent, Middle Eastern? Was the killer white? Because in America, it matters, because we know exactly what that means politically. We know the political implications. If the shooter was black, everybody who's black is vilified. If the shooter was Muslim, everyone who worships, who's a adherent of Islam is convicted. That's because we have allowed we have allowed, I don't care what anybody says, and you please call in and debate me on this. Republicans considered identity politics to be racist. The fact that Democrats right now, screw the Democrats, but they're not, in this regard, they're not bad, right? But in terms of Rahm Emanuel, till they get rid of Rahm Emanuel, screw the Democrats. But what they do right is that they allow identity politics, and we're trying to figure it out, right? It's a mess. We're arguing, but we're trying to figure it out. Republicans look at that and think that we're playing the race card, that we're racist. Oh God, because we're having these conversations about being black in America. Oh, that's racist. Or you're playing the race card because you're trying to help people understand what white privilege is. Oh, you're being racist. They think the fact that we're having these nuanced conversations about race makes us racist. All the while, they are dividing the country based on fear of people of Middle Eastern descent, hatred of black people or anger against black people, and just spitefulness and condescension towards Hispanic people. That is how they have gotten and maintained political power for a long time. Throw on top of that Christian evangelicals, and they mix in with all of them, and then throw on top of that the business class, the corporations who don't want to pay any more in taxes. That makes up the Republican coalition. And so long as they keep playing the Southern strategy in that way, we'll always have to come back to these conversations about what race was the shooter. When you're absolutely right, my friend from Germany, the race of the shooter should not matter at all. What should matter is, how does this continue to happen? Caller, Patrick, you're on the air.
Wow, I call that often. Okay.
Well, you don't have to tell people that. I could pretend like I have a call screener and he told me your name, but you blew it. What's going on, Patrick? What's on your mind?
Well, it's going to sound like I'm pivoting, and bear with me. It's not really that big of a pivot. I think it ties into why we cannot make change, even when we have tragedies. And I'm going to use Hillary Clinton as an example, but it's not just her, but she's emblematic or represents this. Mm-hmm. You know how when she's saying that how she represented Wall Street because Wall Street is located in her state. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was watching a Jefferson Jackson dinner, and she's repeating that. So it's not an error that she's making. She's saying that again and again. I'm watching Barbara Boxer on Hardball, also saying that, of course, she represented Wall Street is located there. My whole point in saying that is that there's a fundamental difference between, let's say, taking money from a private citizen who happens to work in Wall Street or any industry, mm-hmm. than taking money from the industry itself, which is regulated by the federal government. Because that private citizen represents their own interest, mm-hmm. whereas the let's say Wall Street firms represent an industry. Mm-hmm. And why I think that matters.
Yeah.
And I think she's blurring the line, and how it just affects this tragedy is that I don't think it's just that they're afraid of the NRA. I think these representatives think that just because an industry is located or have a heavy presence in their state, that they by default represent the financial interests of that industry, because people work in their district for that industry. And they think that if I would pass legislation that would hurt the gun lobby or hurt the coal lobby, the people in my state who happen to work there get affected too. I don't think it's just purely a matter of they're scared of the NRA money. I think they're afraid of their perception of adversely hurting their constituents. Patrick, and the reason why I heard a representative today just mm-hmm. echo the same concern is here in Florida. Mm-hmm. It was about agriculture. Mm-hmm. And they were saying, well, we don't want to do this because of how it might hurt the industry. I think that's a fair concern, but I think they falsely tie that the concerns of the industry or the interest of a particular industry is the same as the interest of their constituents who happen to work for that industry. So I think they're afraid to pass gun restrictions because of the rural state of the gun shop owners and so forth, mm-hmm. and not understanding that the interest of a private citizen or gun shop owner is different from the interest of the NRA, but there's a line that's being blurred. And tell me if I'm way off on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to tell you. I think I'm going to let people in the chat rooms. I want everybody in the chat room. Do you think that? Actually, no, I'm not going to do you like that. I think you're wrong, Patrick, for the first time in a long time.
I'm open to being wrong, man.
But you are looking at it as it should be. So you're not wrong in how it should be. That is how it should be. They should represent the people of their district. They should represent the best interest of the people in their district, even if that best interest goes against what's in the best interest for the broader America. That's what that representative is there for. So in that regard, I agree with you 100% because that's what they should do. I do not believe for 1 second that that is what they do. I think they do what is in their best financial interest for contributions, not only just outright contributions, but you do realize the NRA and these records, these grade reports, what are those called? Report cards. They issue a report card, and if you don't get an A with them, they put money against you. So it is fear, it is intimidation, and it is acquiescence, where they're just going to go along because they don't want to shake up the NRA. So you have people.
No, I agree with you on that one. But I think I'm saying the way they sell it to us, the way they pacify us, is like I don't want to pass this law because it's going to hurt jobs in my district. And they blur this line all the time. So with Hillary Clinton, the reason why she doesn't support Glass-Steagall is because there's many progressives who she knows are good people who work for Wall Street. And I'm saying those are not the same thing. They may be good individual citizens who support her. It doesn't mean that she can't regulate the industry. But they're blurring that line oftentimes. As far as it to us.
Okay, hang on. Let me give you an applause. I missed that nuance. I missed that. Yeah, you actually went too deep for me. So, and actually it makes a lot of sense. What you're saying is that they're using that as a scapegoat. They're using the excuse of their constituents for a scapegoat. Yeah, I would say that they're doing that all the time. Like Hillary Clinton was really concerned about the 50, well, I don't know how many people, let's say about 500,000 people in her district that are associated with Wall Street, when in actuality, it's Wall Street as a global institution that is controlling it. Absolutely agree with you there. Thanks for that clarification.
Go ahead, man. Thanks, man. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely. My pleasure, man. Always a pleasure to speak with you guys. Cost 80 said something very important, and I think I may have to agree with you, even though it goes counter to what I just said. Cost 80 said that there are times when a representative should ignore his district for the well-being of the country as a whole. So we have this debate in political science all the time. Should the representative merely represent what the people want, or should the representative do what the representative believes is in the best interest for the district or the country? Honestly, it's a tough question, and political scientists really haven't answered it. You have two models. You have the representative who's going to do whatever is the constituents want and what's in the best interest of the constituents, and then you have the other model. Which one is best? I don't know. I think sometimes both can be bad, and I agree with you, Cost 80, that sometimes they should. All right, boom, boom. We have 8 minutes left. Let me read some comments and questions. Bryce in Spreaker said something, and I have to scroll back up so I can see his comment. Oh, Bryce, I remember what he said. Bryce was mentioning, and these are all in the chat room, folks. I have two different chat rooms going on. Bryce mentioned that back in terms of our religion conversation, he said that there are a lot of people who take their religion out of context for their own purposes. And I agree. And I think that's something that should be said, that you can make religion good, or you can make it bad. And what we're experiencing with radical Islam, what we're experiencing with radical Christians, with what we're experiencing with all types of bad religion are people who take the text and they read in it what makes them worse. That happens in every single, and then you have others who take the text and read in it how they can manipulate other people and how they can get money out of other people, and they're just con men, right? You have con men who are religious, you have violent people who are religious, and then you have people who just want humanity to go forward. And what I'm calling for are all the people, I don't care if you're Muslim, Hindu, I don't care if you're Buddhist, I don't care if you're atheist, I don't care if you're Satan, I don't care what you are, Satanist, witch, pagan, Wicca, I don't care what you are. If you want humanity to go forward and you are willing to allow other people around you in your space that are completely different than you, then we have a mutual interest. We don't have a mutual interest in our religion or our lack of religion. We have a mutual interest in the fact that we all want to live on this planet together. And what it's going to take is for those of us who interpret our text to be people who can coexist, to fight against the people who interpret our same text for violence and manipulation. So just like I fight against evangelicals, we do need our Muslim and brothers and sisters who are good, moderate people, peaceful, humanitarian type people. We need you to fight against the radical Islamists that are committing terrorist acts, because they are, let's just say it, it happens in every religion. And if you don't fight it, we are not qualified to fight it. Just like you're not qualified to fight against evangelicals. I can beat their asses. I specialize in that. Rhetorically speaking, I'm not going to hit anybody. You know, caller, you're on the air, 318. What's your name, comment, or question?
This is John from Louisiana, man.
John, I'm going to save your number. I need to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for the Progressive Army idea, man. Can we applaud you?
Oh, you're more than welcome. I mean, this is something that came in my head one day. I have kind of a gripe, but make a point about the Warner preachers meeting with Donald Trump.
Go for it.
I've seen a little pushback, you know, of people saying that it's okay just to meet with somebody and see what they have to offer, which I'm cool with. But that's not what they were doing. They were trying to sell Donald Trump
to the black community
and package him up, you know, as something else. Like we didn't hear what we heard from him. I mean, he doubles down on everything he said.
Yeah.
And I just really had a real issue with the pushback.
Yeah.
A little light pushback that I've seen with that. And it was kind of very dishonest. It was anybody can look and see that they were being very
opportunistic, intellectually dishonest. Absolutely. And I don't know if we know some of the same people who pushed back, but a colleague of mine actually said the same.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I love him to death. But I had to jump on his thread and be like, listen, no, there is a difference. Like, you don't sit down and meet with Hitler. You don't sit down and meet with Satan. You don't sit down and meet with them for the purposes of convincing other people that they're okay. You know, and don't get me wrong. I think Trump is a caricature of a human being. I think he is playing a role. I think this is one big reality TV show to him. I don't think he believes 90% of the things he says. A lot of times, I know when people are drunk. Donald Trump is drunk when he's out there a lot of times. People that nobody has called him on it, but I know when he's not drunk, and I can tell when he is drunk. A lot of times he's just up there full blasted, right? And he's saying anything and everything because his personal stock is going up. Now, I don't believe Donald Trump is Satan or Hitler. I believe that Donald Trump is playing a role of Satan and Hitler.
Absolutely.
I think he's playing this caricatured role. And for anybody to buy into that is not only intellectually dishonest, it is dangerous. And there should be no one who gives that the okay, especially here, especially when these are people who we look to give clarity, discernment, for wisdom and insight, and they are buying into one of the biggest charades that we have seen in a long time.
Absolutely. That's why it's so dangerous. You hit all points on that.
Hey, man, thanks so much for the call. I'm going to lock this in so that we can chat offline, because I want to thank you and connect you with some things we're doing here. So thanks a lot, man.
All right, man. You be cool.
You too now. One more call, guys, before we get out of here. 813. You didn't even have to hold any. What's your name, comment, and/or question?
Hello, this is Quentin from Florida.
Quentin, welcome aboard. Quentin, what's on your mind?
Hi. Well, I'm sure you've covered this topic plenty before, and I think it deserves serious attention. The greatest promoters of anti-progressive thought is any corporate media, and especially conservative media. The greatest threat towards progressivism is the media, by saturating Americans with moderate or conservative propaganda and distracting them with low-calorie information.
I agree with you 100%. Go for it.
Okay, and they greatly influence the majority, especially the majority of active voters. And I think pushing the media is crucial. Your show is a wonderful example of progressive expression. But what do you think needs to happen, and how much attention do you think this issue really needs?
I think there's nothing more powerful than the media. Let's start there, right? There is absolutely nothing more powerful than the media. The most powerful invention in history, I would have to say, besides the air conditioning, but no, for real, the most powerful invention in world history was the radio and the television. Those things consume every bit of our life. Even the internet is an offshoot of media, right? But it started with radio, came with television, and it captures so much of our mind that it gives power to these media outlets that no one else has. They used to carry that power with responsibility. Now it has been corporatized. It has entered the profit motive, and they know the formula for profit is the dumbing down, the sensationalization, the red meat, the rhetoric stuff to just get people mad, angry, and what that does is it does disenfranchise. It discourages participation in one group, and then in the other group, it stirs them into a frenzy. Now it does this drawn down political ideological lines. It does create apathy in the minds of progressive people because there's despair. On the other side of the equation, it drives conservatives to the pole every cycle, because anger is what drives them. Emotion is what drives conservatives. So if you can make them angry, if you can make them afraid, if you can make them feel any type of visceral emotion, then you can get them out to do whatever you need them to do. And the media knows this, and they know that their ratings will go sky high. I don't think Rupert Murdoch cares, outside of the context that conservatism is the most powerful media moneymaker that you can have. Progressivism does not make as much money in the media, which is why you see MSNBC tacking back to the right and just breaking news without giving over to progressivism. I think that has to change. I diagnosed the problem. You said, what's the solution? It has to change. I think the internet is our first step. And I think really smart business decisions when it comes to radio and television in the future has to be the next step. It has to be we need better businessmen on our side. Without it, we will always have stations that start up and close. And that's the downside. So we need more business people. We need more people from corporate America who are doing this for the right reason. Hey, man, thanks so much for the call. I've got to get out of here. My time is almost up. Actually, my time is up. Let's go through this real quick. Chat room. Oh, I didn't tell you about my day. Can I tell you guys about my day? I'm going to tell you anyway. I'm going to have to be a patient. Yes, before I go into it, yes, Omni Mortar, go and no, you don't have to be. I already recognize your number. I just didn't say it, Pedro. Thanks so much for my regular callers, and I really appreciate all of the new callers. You guys make the show that much better. It's great when I have callers. I can rant for an hour by myself, but it's really good to get your perspective because everyone brings new insight. Let me tell you about my day, man. I survived. That's all I can say. New position. And I got to the office this morning and I looked at my calendar and I realized I had a major presentation at 5 o'clock this afternoon that I completely forgot about. That's how busy life is. That's how, hectic things are. Thankfully, I had been doing preparation. But I just needed to tie the pieces together. And so here I am at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh, the world is coming to an end. I had one of my, it was everything major. I had all my major first today. Today was like crossing the burning sands. I had to do a major presentation for management. I had to do major presentation for clients. I had to do a training session. I had to do X, Y, and Z. No time to spare at all. And somehow or another, I managed to survive, and not only survive, but actually kill it all. And I want to give myself an applause because I'm here hanging out with you guys after the fact. So, love my job, love what I do there. I work with some really great people, and everything. It's not what I'm going to be doing the rest of my life. Obviously, they know that, I know that, but I'm picking up some really good things, organizational management things. I think corporate America has some really good things that we can glean from, and I think if we take the best of corporate America and bring it into progressivism, then we have a progressive army that cannot be stopped, all for the right reasons, for the betterment of mankind and humanity. Folks, if you guys don't have any other questions, any other comments, progressive is the way. You deserve it for not yeah, man. Listen, I can't say I did not panic. I just did not let anybody see me panicking. And so I did a couple of my breathing exercises. And once I got into the groove of my first presentation, it was like butter. Once I got into my training session, it was gravy. Once I got to my major presentation at 6, I was at about 5. I was in my groove. I went and had beers with my managers afterwards and told them the truth that I completely forgot that my presentation was at 5 o'clock today. But again, folks, join the Progressive Army. We actually have a website that's coming. We're building the website out. We have a Facebook page already. I'll give you guys the links. I want you to invite everybody. The Progressive Army is not about me, but I think I can help us get it going, and I think we can use it for good. So when I send these links out, I want you to join the Progressive Army. I don't care who you are, what you believe. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what your faith is. I don't care if you don't have any faith. If you simply want to live without somebody dictating to you how you should live, you are a part of the Progressive Army. And we need your help to get the word out. Folks, it's been good. YouTube, if you guys ask me some questions, I might stick around. If not, I'm going to get some a drink and go to bed.
Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Crazy mother.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Oh man, I completely forgot about that, didn't I? Actually, guys, I'm feeling good. Tomorrow's an easy day at work. Tomorrow's an easy day. I made it through today. Tomorrow I can go blindfolded, but I won't, so that I don't have another day like today. But the Daily News cover, I loved it. It was brilliant. And it's the same thing we've been crying the whole time. Stop praying. The next person that says that they're praying, they need to have that tweet shoved up their butts, because prayer will not change. I don't care how you cut it. If you look at it from a religious perspective, prayer alone will change nothing. From a practical, pragmatic, just the world we live in, prayer is not going to change anything. It requires action. This is my rule of thumb. I do not say I'm going to pray about something that I can fix. Why? I need to save my prayers for things I can't fix. Pray for the families who can't they can't find a cure for cancer. We can't fix that yet, but we can fix gun violence. So I think the cover was brilliant, and I think it speaks to the fact that people have had enough of this rhetoric, of this placation by politicians that are just trying to make us apathetic by saying we're going to pray about it. Folded hands covered in, but yeah. Oh, that one. Are you talking about that one? There was another one. Was that the same one? Yeah, Will. Oh, wait a minute, Will. Hang on, Will. What do you know about faith without works is dead, Will? You never know. Hey, you never know what people know. You can't make assumptions, but you're absolutely right. Religiously speaking, faith without works is dead. Do not tell me that you're praying if you're not moving into action. I did see a separate cover. I don't know if it was the same one, but I did see the cover with hands covered in blood, folded hands covered in blood. That absolutely means every day that we don't do something about it when we could do something about it, that next life, that's on us. So it is our responsibility. That is responsibility. Guys, did you guys read the article that I wrote? I want you to share it, even if you didn't. Do me a favor. Listen, this how many people are left? 22 people are watching. I'm gonna wait till it gets down to about 10. When it gets down to about 10, I'll say some things. Let me answer a couple other questions. I got to go post and remind peeps the Iowa caucus is less than 60 days away. Yep. Oh, it is really the Iowa caucus. I gotta change my registration. Here I have until February to change my registration here in Massachusetts, but I'll get that done. Do you have an opinion on the daily news cover? Good night, Carlene. Netflix and chill. That was me. Good show. Thanks, Davin. Hey, Davin, I appreciate you, man. Let's see. Now, no one. I know, right? I'm such a dummy like that. I always say that. I told my managers to. I told them not to look at something, and then of course they looked at it. I don't know why I do that. I think secretly I do want people to stay and listen. Politicians should fixing this. Ben, you need to do a 1.5 hour, bro. I do my best to. I would do it tonight, only because I'm just tired now, man. I'm kind of tired. Not too tired to chat with you guys, but I am a little tired in terms of trying to be deep and philosophical. Right now, it'd be a good time to have a Cuban and a cognac and just chill. So I'll say this now. It's still 21 people. The Progressive Army is going to be something magnificent. Now that I said that, about 10 people should leave because they'll be like, hey, we don't want to be a part. That's fine. I do need you to leave. The Progressive Army is going to be exactly what we need it to be. It's going to be more than just social media. It's going to be more than just Facebook posts. I appreciate what all those places do, like I can't even name them right now, but all the places that share the memes and stuff. The Progressive Army has to be about us being smarter than everybody else, but also bolder and braver than everybody else. Like, take no prisoners. We will do the dirty work for the right reason, right? We will get our hands dirty. We will do the debates. We will debate. We will argue. We will go to places no one else will go. We will say the things that no one else wants to say. We will call out this party, this Democratic Party, call them out. We need to hold them accountable. If we need to withhold our votes just to teach them a lesson on progressivism, as much as that is not in me to do, because I've always been keep Republicans out by any means necessary. But if we're always like that, then the Democrats will always take advantage of progressives and African Americans. We have to be willing to play chicken, or what's it called? Chicken, and never blink. Never blink. Like, be dead serious. Do not blink. They will blink first, and we can get some change, and we'll actually have a progressive party back. Social media makes it so possible to spread like a virus. And I think it could start with a small group of people here. I think 10, 15 people can help build this Progressive Army and really, really bring some change, because it's the strength in numbers. I have no problem like leading the charge. I have no problem being like the people's champion. I have no problem if you guys get me in front of Bill O'Reilly, I will crush him. I've got no problem. I had a debate scheduled with Crowder. I haven't called him out for real because I really want to do the debate because I want to crush him on his show. And I know that if I call him out too much, he's not going to let me on his show. So but he had a debate scheduled with me and he canceled, because you know why? Because I'm going to crush him. You put me on stage with anybody, I'm going to work harder than them. I'm going to study harder than them, and I'm going to come with more passion than them. And so long as I work harder, study harder, and come with more passion, we will always win. Always. And that's what the Progressive Army has to be. Always. Now, there will be a time I'm going to lose one. I might lose two. Every champ loses, but I'm going to get right back in the ring. If you want somebody to fight on your behalf, build this Progressive Army. I will get behind you and I'll get in front of you and you point them to me. And I'm not talking about Twitter fights, right? I don't even have energy for Twitter fights. I'm talking about give me Rush Limbaugh. I will shut him down for us, not for me, not for you, for us, for the sake of humanity, man. Because the last caller said, how do we fix this? I think we fix this by taking the fight to them and stop retreating, stop being cowards, stop being like MSNBC and firing progressive hosts, right? If we have to build our own network, we need to be able to never apologize for having the better ideology, the better ideas, and the better humanity. And that's what the Progressive Army is. So if you're interested, when we send these links out to you, we not only need you to share, but we need you to absorb it and become it. The only people, if they truly understood, I'm reading your comments now. Alicia Keys' voice. This guy is on fire. I'm trying, man. Shieldberry. If we continuously elect moderate Democrats that have worthless, hang on, the comment went up. Let me go back. If we continuously elect moderate Democrats that have worthless conservative values, both parties will continuously move right until we can never elect a progressive again. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to be honest with you. I want to do a public thank you to my older brother, Scott. July 4th, July 3rd, he actually called me and he said, Ben, did you hear Bernie Sanders' speech? I said, I heard some of it on Tom Hartman's show. He said, Ben, why aren't you talking about Bernie Sanders? And I said, I'm going to make a confession here, guys. Don't leave me when I confess. He said, Ben, why aren't you talking about Bernie Sanders? Because I'm like, as much as I love him, I don't think he's going to win. And I was saying it from a place of despair, not political calculation, but from despair, because I felt as though it's going to be Hillary. And my brother said, if you don't try, he never will win. So if you guys want to thank anybody, thank my older brother, because of him saying that, I really looked at this differently and said, damn it, we've got to try. Even if we lose, we've got to try like hell. And because it's not about Bernie Sanders as much as it is, do we believe that progressivism is actually the best thing for America and for humanity? Absolutely yes. And if we believe that, then we have to fight for the best progressive that's in there. Right now, it's Bernie Sanders. Personally, I love Elizabeth Warren. My wife knows if I wasn't married to her, I'd be chasing after Elizabeth Warren. I just love her brilliance. I love her fire. I love her progressiveness. But if she doesn't endorse Bernie Sanders, she gets cut with everybody else. I applaud myself there. Because of what Shield Bearer just said, if we keep electing moderates, then we are going to keep going further to the right. This is the calculation. I want to help you understand something. I don't want America to go to the extreme left. I want America to come back to center, where Eisenhower, who wasn't even a Democrat, but he was a progressive. That's the thing. Like, you have progressive Republicans. Theodore Roosevelt, a progressive Republican. Let me pull something up for you. Hold tight. Even not just Theodore Roosevelt. Go back further. President Lincoln. So, this is why I always laugh at Republicans when they say, I guess I probably should have left this on for Spreaker too, right? Because this is a good point. When people say they're the party of Lincoln, how in the bloody hell could conservatives ever believe that they are the party of Lincoln when they are currently the Confederate flag waving party against which Lincoln waged the Civil War? Oh, that thought. Oh God, where's mine? How did that not work? Oh, snap. No wonder I didn't hear it. Hold on, folks. Well, I'm assuming you guys have been hearing me all night. You've been interacting with me. I had something on mute, which it shouldn't have been.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Right? You don't get to claim that you are the party of Lincoln and be the Confederate flag waving party. You don't. It is very true. It is very true that historically Democrats were the conservatives. Democrats created the Ku Klux Klan. Democrats fought against the Civil Rights Act. Democrats fought, Southern Democrats in particular, not Northern Democrats, but Southern Democrats represented the status quo, represented conservatism, right? That's why Lincoln had to wage war as a Republican against the South, which was predominantly Democrat. That's why the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Democrats from the South opposed it, not because of a letter D or Republican R, but because they were conservative, which is why after a Democratic president did not veto the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, but he signed it into law. That's why the Democrats left, the conservatives left the Democratic Party and went to the Republican Party. Now they want to rewrite history and say that that's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. And for those of you who don't know for sure, I want you to wiki just for the sake of ease. You can get plenty of scholarly articles. You can go and get research from Duke University and Harvard. They have papers on this, but because tonight we're running out of time, the realignment election of 1964 or 1968 rather. The realignment election of 1968. If you look at what happened in 1964, I'm going to bring up maps and actually show you. Let me get two windows open because I want to show you. I'm going to show you that it's not about Democrats. It's not about Republicans. It's about progressives versus conservatives, progressive liberals versus conservatives. 1968, and then we want the same thing for 1964. I want you to see what happened in 1964 versus what happened in 1968. Perfect. Oh, you can't get any more explicit than this, right? It's brilliant. And 1960, there was a transition over an 8-year period. 1 second, I'm just getting the data together, and we can talk about anything else. But you guys kind of, I don't know how I got into my wheelhouse, but this is my wheelhouse right here. Okay. I'm going to put them in order and share my screen. Hold that thought. Sometimes the after show is even better than the real show. Folks should never really leave until. Okay. Now you can go get the scholarly articles on this because people who think Wiki is bad, Wiki is not bad. For the record, I would never cite Wiki in any of my scholarly research, obviously, but you can start at Wiki and go find the scholarly research underneath it. But that's just a pro tip. All right, so 1960, John F. Kennedy, Democrat. Now, this was split by Harry B. F. Byrd, who was a segregationist, right? But even though this is 1960, this is before the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, running against Richard Nixon, John F. Kennedy obviously won. Look at what Kennedy carried. And make sure you guys can see. Yeah, you can see. Look at what Kennedy carried. Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas. He did not carry Mississippi and Alabama because the staunch segregationist Harry Byrd did, but he got 5 electoral votes from Alabama. Then he got Georgia. He got South Carolina, North Carolina. And then he got some of the North around New England because he's from New England. The Democratic Party carried the South. The South were full of segregationists, full of racists, full of the Klan. The Democratic Party has that baggage. And so everybody's saying, oh, but how are you black and you're not a Republican when Republicans voted against civil rights? Because I know history. All right, what election was this? This is 68. I want to go to 64. So the first one we looked at was 1960. Then you have 1964. November 1964 was right after. This was right after the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Right after it, right after he said, Lyndon B. Johnson said, as he signed it, he said that we're going to lose, the Democrats will lose the South for a generation. What happened in that election? Look at 1960. Who carried the South? Predominantly Democrats. 1964, who carried the South? Republicans. Everyone says this realignment theory is fiction because they want to make you think that Republicans, modern day Republicans, are the same Republicans that were here pre-1964. That's not true. Modern day Republicans, that is exactly where Democrats from the South, segregationists, went. They had a new alignment, which got more solidified later. 1968, Richard Nixon versus Herbert Humphrey versus George Wallace. Look at who carried the South. And then I'm going to go to 2012, not 2012. Actually, no, I will go to 2012. Look who carried the South. The staunch segregationists, and the only state that the South was carried, that the Democrats carried in the South, was Texas. And that's probably because Lyndon B. Johnson campaigned the hell out of for Herbert Humphrey, because he did not run that year. He decided he was not going to run. If he ran, he would have run a lot more, but he didn't. He didn't run in 1968. And we lost to Richard Nixon. I want to go to 72. Look at the transition. Look at this. Now, this was just a horrible year. I don't know why we ran George McGovern. Who carried the South? Well, hell, Nixon carried the whole damn nation. So this is not a good example. God, dog, we got our butts whipped that year. Now, something different happened in 1976. Can somebody tell me why did Jimmy Carter carry so much of the South? Raise your hand. He carried the South. Two reasons. He's a first evangelical preacher. This is in my book. I document this in the book. He was carried into the White House by the same people who would turn on him later on. He was carried to the White House by Southern evangelicals and the fact that he was from Georgia. So he got the majority and won those elections. Now let's go to 2012. I probably have an empty room at this point. I don't even know who's left in the room. But the point I'm trying to show you is that there's an evolution, that ideologies change parties, even if the party doesn't change. The same segregationist South. And for all the people who say, the South, or all the people who say the racists are in the Democrats because they voted against the Civil Rights Act of 1964, understand it wasn't about Democrats so much as it was Democrats in the South versus Democrats in the North. Were totally different breeds of animals, right? And the fact that it was clearly about, hang on, I think I just said, I oversold that. I only had one point. It's about whether or not they were from the South or the North. The South, clearly you saw in 1968 was when George, what's that segregationist's name? Not Goldwater. God, I forgot. Just forgot that quick. It's been a long day, folks. I'm glad we're just freestyling right now. 68. George Wallace. 1968. You saw what he carried. Who do you think? Now, 2012. What happens? 2012. Mitt Romney carries the South. Here's the main question you asked him. For everyone says, "Oh, the Democrats are the party of the racists." Yeah, we were. We really were. But who do you think the Klan voted for in 2012? You think the Klan voted for Barack Obama? In the conversation. That's it. I didn't mean to go over into a history lesson, guys. But I kind of get tired of those same name, different players. Exactly. Thank you, Grandma. I could have kept this open. You would have gave me the answer. It's like saying the Miracle Mets are the same team today as they were. Yeah, exactly. Because they have share the same name. It's totally different. Now, does that give the Democratic Party a pass? Absolutely not. I will no longer give the Democratic Party a pass for two reasons. Because one, they are wishy-washy on black issues. They're getting better, but they have not been good. Bill Clinton was not good for African Americans. Barack Obama did not step out for African Americans, not because he didn't want to, but because he wouldn't have won. Let's just be real. If President Obama was as pro-black as I am, do you think he would have won? No. That's the dynamics of America. But two, I'm not going to give them a pass because they're not progressive anymore. They're not progressive anymore. And if they don't get their acts right with regard to progressivism, yeah, that's it. All right. That was fun. I've read a portion of it, Todd. I have not read it in its entirety. When I started to read it, I actually ended up having I put it down because of my doctoral program, and that's not a good excuse because I can read a book in a day if I put my mind to it. So, but I did get enough through it to realize it was a great book, and the premise of it was really brilliant. I heard her speak one time, and I think it's a good book. We can discuss it sometime. The only black man Obama cares about is Obama. I don't agree with that, but it's hilarious. I don't agree with that, but I'm gonna laugh at it and clap it because it's hilarious. I think Obama is I think Obama was, I have a good analogy here. Hang on. Obama was MD 2020 when we needed a cognac. We needed Hennessy. You know, you don't start off with Hennessy if you're just starting to drink. You go with a Mad Dog 2020, the cheap stuff from the gas station. You get the easy stuff that tastes like Kool-Aid and has a little bit of liquor, right? Obama couldn't be a real black man, and Obama couldn't be a real progressive, not because Obama isn't a real black man and because he's not a real progressive, but because America could not handle a real black man and a real progressive in 2008 and 2012. Can we all agree there that America was not ready to be as progressive as it is today? In 2008, we were afraid of them calling us communists. We didn't know how to fight back against. It took 8 years for us to figure out how to fight back against the propaganda of communism, of them calling us communism. So Obama, no matter how progressive he wanted to be or thought he was, he couldn't be anything more than a moderate because America was piss scared of being called socialist. And he sure as hell couldn't have been pro-black, because even now today, you can't say you're pro-black without people thinking that means anti-white. Just like you can't say Black Lives Matter without people thinking you're meaning that all lives don't matter. When in reality, the only reason we say we're pro-black is because we have to assert our right to be black in America. We have to assert our right to exist. It's like a person being pro-gay or pro-LGBTQ. They're not saying that you should be ashamed to be straight. They're simply saying we have to shout louder than everybody else just for our humanity, just for the sake to exist and be who we are and what we want to be and live how we want to live. When we say black is beautiful, it's not that we're saying anyone else is not beautiful. It's that we're saying all of our lives, we've been told that beauty was always blonde hair and blue-eyed. And one day we woke up and said, why do we hate ourselves? Who told us that we were ugly? Who told us that we weren't beautiful? Who told us that we were no good? And the only way you overcome that type of insecurity is by asserting it in a positive way. Man, to say, I have black power, black pride. And when I say black pride, I mean human pride. Because if we can handle this complex situation of an oppressed people finding their voice and asserting their humanity, then we can replicate that to every oppressed and marginalized group, so that now there is a model for the LGBTQ community to say gay pride. And there's a model for the Hispanic community to say Hispanic pride, and Hispanic is beautiful, and Cuban is beautiful, and everything is beautiful, despite what the status quo power structure of white Christian men have told us for 200 years. So it's not America couldn't handle Obama being pro-black because we didn't even understand the nuances of that conversation that I was just able to speak. Yeah, that was Malcolm X, that I was able to throw at you in a matter of few moments. I haven't been able to do that all my life. It took about 8 years of understanding the complexities of who I am and where Quantum, let me see if you know where this one comes from, who I am and how I fit into this world. And once you sit down and have that conversation with yourself, you're able to convey it in a way that is weaponizable. You can weaponize that power. So when I say I'm pro-black, you understand, by me being pro-black, that should empower you to be pro-atheist. That should empower you to be pro-gay. That should empower you to be pro-lesbian, pro-Hispanic, whatever you are. And Hakeem doesn't have to like who you are. He just needs to understand that you have a place to exist. I don't need you to like me just because I'm black. I need you to recognize my right to exist. And that's what progressivism is. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with everything. It doesn't mean that we have to believe the same things. We don't have to go to the same church and have the same, we don't even have to go to church. We don't have to, you guys in this room could absolutely be disgusted with the fact that I am a Christian that prays every night with my family. You have the right to be that. But what you don't have the right to do is to tell me that I don't have the right to pray with my family every single night. And if we can just agree on that much, then we're all progressive. I think that was actually better than the whole damn show. I'm going to cut that up. Stupid rabbit. Okay, Dust Puppy has a good point here. You can't, and I'll close out with this one. You can't reach out a hand of friendship across the aisle to a bunch of rabid skunks. The only way you deal with the rabid skunks is to beat them in the face with a shovel. I won't beat them in the face with a shovel, but every time one of them wants to challenge me, my goal is to eviscerate them and leave their rhetorical guts hanging on their desk for their entire audience to see, so that they will never forget that progressivism is better. And if you join this progressive army, we can make that happen. Folks, it is good to end with a laugh. Hey, man, believe it or not, I love each and every one of you. You guys have a good night.